C13 Originals.
I think the appeal of Oz comes largely because it's a very accepting place. People who are unusual and different are celebrated. So anyone reading it is going to feel like they belong there because anybody who arrives at Oz belongs and is welcomed and loved.
One community in particular responded to the movie's message of acceptance and adopted Judy Garland as a kind of patron saint.
The idea that there might be a place like Oz, which allowed you to be who you were, where troubles melt like lemon drops, and where expressions of emotion were okay, that was an extraordinary idea to me. And I think it was appealing to me well before I had the capacity to understand why.
This is Nathaniel Frank, whose grandfather wrote a biography of Judy, based in part on extensive interviews with the star. Frank is an author too, and he's written about Judy's importance in queer culture.
My interest in Judy Garland really came through The Wizard of Oz. And the idea of this lovable little girl who was in this black and white farm community that didn't allow her to be herself and do the things she wanted to do. And suddenly she's catapulted to this place over the rainbow, which is a colorful city full of lovable misfits who want to protect her and help her get what she wants.
It's not a place you can get to by a boat or a train. It's far, far away.
But Judy's role as Dorothy is only one reason she became a queer icon. Just as important is the way she had to fight for herself, for her life.
It's the explanation that appeals to me, and it's also among the most poignant reasons for a queer love of Judy Garland. And we're talking about that paradox of her as someone who never really had her own sense of identity because she was a manufactured wind-up doll to please strangers. She also, because of low self-esteem, had developed many crushes on older men, married men that were taboo, and that she often felt she couldn't express. And that's something that queer people certainly identify with, having these longings, these loves, these feelings that at their core, they feel they can't express without being punished, without losing relationships that are most important to them.
Judy and pieces of her persona formed a kind of shorthand in the LGBTQ community. For instance, the phrase friend of Dorothy became a way for queer people to identify each other.
The queer community has always identified itself, at least to one another, largely through symbols. The colorful handkerchief of Oscar Wilde's time that you would wear in your back pocket or on your lapel, songs, common figures that people admire, was a way of simply identifying yourself to one another to meet for friendship or for sexual intimacy, partner hunting, if that's what you were doing. So I think Judy Garland became a symbol for the gay community.
Funeral services were held in New York today for Judy Garland, who died in London Sunday at the age of 47.
Judy was found dead in London on June 22nd, 1969. And her funeral was about 5 days later, and it was on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and tens of thousands of people came out to pay their last respects. And we know that among them were a great number of LGBT people.
Thousands of people lined the streets outside the funeral chapel on Manhattan's Upper East Side. Many of them had waited for hours in the heat to pay this last tribute to a woman they had known since her childhood.
How long have you been here? I've been here since 3 o'clock this morning. Why? Because I thought it was my duty, because I respected Judy Garland, and I wanted to show my respect by coming.
It was a time when it was not easy and not common to physically show up somewhere as a community. Not that people had signs saying, "We're her gay fans," but they knew it, and they could recognize one another, and there was something very moving and empowering about being a queer fan of Judy and being able to show up and attend her funeral. A few hours later, 4 miles south at this dusty, grungy mob-owned bar known for queer people attending it, there may have been people who had also been at the funeral.
The Stonewall Uprising, the spark of the modern LGBTQ rights movement, took place the night after Judy's funeral. Police raided a gay bar called the Stonewall Inn. Patrons and neighborhood residents started protesting, and they kept going for 6 days.
The Stonewall Inn was a bar that didn't have a liquor license, and so it considered itself a bottle club, which meant you had to sign in, and a lot of people signed Judy Garland or Mickey Mouse or something. They weren't going to sign their real name. And it could very well be that people drinking and sad and empowered by the funeral were riled up in some way as a result of Judy's death and the funeral.
This is more legend than proven fact. Some historians dispute the link between the funeral and the uprising. But the story still holds a lot of power.
Having a story that matters to people, that matters to a community and to a group, is an important part of queer history. And I think that's why that legend of there being a connection between Judy's death and Stonewall lingers.